Have you ever been too kind? Maybe you've gone out of your way to help someone, only to realize later that they took advantage of your generosity. Or perhaps you've seen someone in power who seems too nice, always agreeing, always accommodating, and wondered why they never seem to get anything done. Kindness is one of our most celebrated virtues. We're taught from childhood to be gentle, giving, and selfless. But what if I told you there's a darker side to kindness? That sometimes being too kind can backfire, not just in personal relationships, but in leadership, politics, and even survival. This is something Niccolò Machiavelli, the infamous Renaissance philosopher, understood deeply. In The Prince, his controversial guide to power, he didn't just distrust kindness, he saw it as a potential weakness, a tool that could be manipulated or exploited. And while his name has become synonymous with ruthlessness, his warnings about blind kindness might be more relevant today than ever. So why would someone distrust kindness? And when does being too good actually become a problem? Let's start by looking at the first reason Machiavelli was skeptical. Because kindness, when misplaced, can be dangerously naive. Imagine a leader who refuses to ever punish, criticize, or say no. They want to be loved, so they avoid conflict at all costs. Sounds noble, right? But here's the problem. Without boundaries, people push limits. Without consequences, bad behavior grows. Machiavelli argued that a ruler who is only kind will eventually lose control because some people will see that kindness as an opportunity, not a virtue. This isn't just about politics. Think about a parent who never disciplines their child or a manager who never corrects mistakes. The result isn't harmony, it's chaos. Because kindness without strength isn't compassion. It's permission for others to act without accountability. Now let's take it a step further. Machiavelli's second warning was even more unsettling. Kindness can be performative. Ever met someone who's always doing favors, always offering help, but it feels calculated, like they're keeping score? That's because kindness can be a mask, a way to manipulate trust or loyalty. History is full of leaders who smiled while they betrayed, who gave gifts before demanding obedience. And in our own lives, we've all encountered people who use generosity as leverage. Machiavelli's point wasn't that all kindness is fake, but that when it's used as a tool rather than a genuine gesture, it becomes a weapon. So where does that leave us? Should we all become cold, calculating strategists? Of course not. But understanding the darker side of kindness helps us recognize when it's being weaponized and when our own good intentions might be doing more harm than good. Because real kindness isn't about being nice, it's about being effective. It's knowing when to offer help and when to enforce boundaries. It's understanding that sometimes the kindest thing you can do is say no, and that's just the beginning. Because once you see how easily kindness can be twisted, you start noticing the deeper patterns, the ones Machiavelli saw centuries ago and the ones we still grapple with today. So, if kindness can be naive or even manipulative, what's the alternative? Should we just stop being kind altogether? That's not what Machiavelli was saying, and it's not the solution. His real argument was more nuanced. Kindness without judgment is a liability. Think about it. Have you ever helped someone who didn't really deserve it? Maybe a friend who constantly borrows money but never pays it back, or a co-worker who slacks off while you pick up their workload. You were being kind, sure, but were you actually helping them? Or were you just enabling their behavior? Machiavelli would argue that true leadership and even true compassion requires discernment. Blind kindness doesn't make the world better. It just rewards the wrong people. And that leads us to his third point. Kindness must be balanced with consequences. This is where things get uncomfortable, because enforcing consequences feels harsh, even cruel. But consider this. What's crueler? Letting someone repeatedly take advantage of you, or setting a boundary that forces them to change? A great example is forgiveness. We're told to forgive endlessly, to turn the other cheek, but Machiavelli would ask, what if the person keeps hurting you? At some point, forgiveness without change isn't mercy, it's surrender. This doesn't mean we should be merciless, it just means kindness has to be conditional. If someone betrays your trust, the kindest thing you can do for them and for yourself is to show them that actions have repercussions. Otherwise, you're not being good, you're being gullible. Now let's take this to a larger scale, because Machiavelli wasn't just talking about personal relationships, he was talking about power. And this brings us to his fourth and perhaps most controversial idea. Sometimes fear is more reliable than love. Wait. Before you dismiss that as cold-hearted, think about it. If you're a leader, would you rather have people follow you because they like you or because they respect you? Because affection can fade. Loyalty built on kindness alone is fragile, but respect sticks. This isn't about being a tyrant, it's about recognizing that people are complicated. They respond to incentives, to boundaries, to consistency. A leader who is only loved might be obeyed when times are easy, but a leader who is respected will be followed when things get hard. And that's the heart of Machiavelli's distrust of kindness. He didn't hate goodness. He hated blind goodness, the kind that ignores human nature, that refuses to see people as they really are, because if you assume everyone has pure intentions, you'll be taken advantage of. If you think kindness alone is enough, you'll be outmaneuvered. But here's the twist. Machiavelli's real lesson isn't about being ruthless. It's about being clear-eyed. It's about understanding that kindness is a tool, and like any tool, it can build or destroy, depending on how you use it. So what does that mean for us? How do we balance kindness with wisdom? Well, that's where things get really interesting, because the answer isn't to stop being kind. It's to start being strategic about it. So how do we practice kindness without becoming naive or being taken advantage of? Machiavelli might not seem like the go-to guy for ethical advice, but his insights reveal something profound. True kindness requires strength. It's not about being soft, it's about being intentional. Let's break this down with a practical example. Imagine you're managing a team and one member keeps missing deadlines. The kind thing might be to cover for them, make excuses, give them just one more chance. But what happens? Their behavior doesn't change, the team's morale drops and resentment builds. Now, what's the truly kind move? It might be sitting them down, setting clear expectations, and if nothing improves, letting them go. Harsh? Maybe. But enabling failure isn't kindness, it's cowardice. This brings us to Machiavelli's fifth and final lesson. Kindness must serve a purpose. Random acts of kindness are beautiful, but sustained goodness requires strategy. Are you helping someone grow or just making yourself feel noble? Are you forgiving to heal or because you're avoiding conflict? Here's the uncomfortable truth. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is walk away. From toxic relationships, from one-sided friendships, from situations where your generosity is being exploited. Machiavelli wouldn't call that selfish, he'd call it smart. Because if you drain yourself trying to fill a cup with holes, who does that really help? Now let's zoom out. Does all this mean we should distrust kindness entirely? Of course not. But we should distrust the idea that kindness is always simple, always pure. Real kindness isn't about being liked, it's about doing what's right, even when it's hard. It's knowing when to offer a hand and when to draw a line. So where does that leave us? With a choice. We can keep pretending kindness is just about being sweet and agreeable. Or we can embrace a stronger, more honest version of it, one that protects as much as it gives, that enforces boundaries as much as it offers grace. Because in the end, Machiavelli wasn't against kindness, he was against weakness. And the irony, the people who change the world, the ones who lift others up, who build lasting good, aren't the pushovers. They're the ones kind enough to care but tough enough to act. So be kind but be wise, be generous but be clear-eyed, and above all, don't mistake niceness for goodness. The world needs real kindness. And that starts with you. What do you think? Have you ever experienced the darker side of kindness? Share your stories in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective. And if this resonated with you, don't forget to like and subscribe for more thoughts on life, power, and the philosophies that shape us. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.